Hello again, guys. I am Blunty. This is John. John's a developer for Sony Computer Entertainment. You've been working on a lot of stuff for the PlayStation Vita.
Yes.
So what's that been like? You were telling me before, you've been with Sony since just before the PlayStation 1. So
just before PlayStation 1, yes.
You've seen everything.
I've seen everything.
So what's been the most sort of interesting jump in technology as you go along?
Well, I think there's interesting jumps in technology as you're there in that point in time. So going from PS1 to PS2 was awesome. Again, PSP and then PS3, and again we're now on the Vita. That's pretty much one of the most awesome pieces of kit we've produced.
You've got a lot of technology packed into this. What's from a game developer point of view? What's the most interesting thing as far as the technology goes for the Vita?
It does pretty much everything. I mean, it's really powerful. You've seen before when we played Littlebigplanet. Its graphical capabilities are awesome. You're looking on this 5-inch OLED screen now. It's really bright. It really shows off the detail of the graphics we can produce. It's almost PS3 quality.
It looked to me indistinguishable from PS3.
It's pretty good
on a smaller screen. But.
And then on top of that, you've got all the social functionality of what it can do in terms of near and party and things like that. And then two cameras enable us to do different things in terms of how we interact with the player. We can detect your face, whether you're smiling. Different games may be able to do that, and we can do augmented reality now at a much grander scale than we've been able to do before. And then on top of that, we've got all the different control options. The dual analog sticks mean that there's no compromises now, especially when it comes to the likes of first-person shooters, 3D action adventures. You know, really, really cool experience. We've got crossplay. So certain games will be able to play with the PS3 counterparts. So games like Hustle Kings, you'll be able to play a game of pool with your friend. Wipeout, you'll be able to race against your friends on PS3. It sounds a bit funny to say, but it does almost do everything. It's a really cool piece of kit.
When you're thinking about games for the Vita, how can we use these new features in games we know and love? Or are we thinking about, well, what completely new types of gameplay experience?
I think you're going to get both. I mean, with something like Littlebigplanet, you're seeing how we can build upon what we've seen with the create, the play, and the share. You're seeing the different levels that we can do. You get traditional Littlebigplanet levels that are cool platform games, where you'll get something totally different, maybe just using front touch or maybe just using rear touch. And then you've got games that will just take advantage of those features as well. I mean, you've seen with Reality Fighter, taking advantage of the camera, create this augmented reality world, putting you in the real world, fighting off against your friends or your family. It's really cool. And as a developer, it's great to have all these tools because it just gives us more choice in what we can do with our games. It gives our developers more choice in the games that they can pitch to us as well.
The thing I noticed when I was having my play, though, is the rear panel, the rear touch panel that everyone's sort of talking about because no one else has done anything like that. It actually felt more natural to me than I thought it would. I thought it was going to be really awkward, but I got used to it very, very quickly. What kind of things are you thinking about when you're thinking about the rear panel, putting it into games? Because it's an unnatural prospect. We've never done that in gaming before, and how do you make it feel natural?
You've seen with different games might use it in different ways. So for a driving game, for example, you could just use that maybe to accelerate rather, and then keep your buttons free for something else. Or maybe you can use the gyros to actually steer rather than the analog stick or the D-pad. But then we saw in games with Littlebigplanet, it just adds a new dimension to the kinds of puzzles we can create. So you may come to like that scenario that we saw before with the blocks, and it's like, what do we do here? So now I can experiment with front and rear touch.
So you can push items backwards and forwards in the environment in a very sort of.
And we can also use them in conjunction with each other, so I can use the front and rear touch together. So in Super Stardust now on Vita, there's a mode where I can destroy asteroids by crushing them, by using front and rear touch together. So it's thinking of enhancing games that we've made before and creating new games in different ways by using these feature sets that make the Vita a really exciting proposition.
When this thing hits the market, what are you going to be playing first?
I'm going to be finishing Reality Fighters off, so it's going to be there at launch. It's a tough one. I love my action adventures. I think Uncharted is going to be there or thereabouts for me.
Those are going to be brilliant on
this.
Yes,
yeah. It's going to be really good. I've only seen it a little bit, but I'm trying to stay away from it, so it's all fresh and new to me at launch.
It's got to be hard being in the business you're in, trying to stay fresh on games.
No, I think there's too many games now that are really so good. I remember years ago when I was gaming, you get a few big hitters each year, but now you just get tons and tons, whether it's Uncharted, like Dead Space, the Call of Duty, the Battlefield. There's so many games
every
out there.
season. There's
It's
like
it's a good time to be a gamer. It really is.
Yeah, we've never been more spoiled for choice as far as games, the type of games we play, where we can play them, how we can play them, what we can play them on. It's brilliant to be a gamer and a game developer, I suppose.
It's hard work, but you know, once you see your game out there and you see people enjoying it, and we check out the forums as well to see what people are saying. And you know, we take the critical acclaim as well, and we take the criticism as well, as long as it's constructive, that is.
How does it feel from your end though? Because when a game comes out and there's a bug in it or something, it's a sequel and they haven't kept what someone loved from the first one, and people on forums get really vitriolic about that and just are spouting angrily at the company in general, but they forget there's guys like you behind it. How do you feel about that? Do you take it personally or just...
No, not really. I mean, the video games industry and the players as well, they're really passionate about the games. And some of the things that sometimes they want, we've thought of, and then we haven't put them in for particular reasons. But we actively listen on the forums, and we're happy to interact with guys. I interact on the blogs and things like that. And generally, it's good to see your games out there. It's good to see people playing them and people enjoying them. And it makes it all worthwhile. It makes the slog really worthwhile.
Excellent. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks a lot.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege, and really looking forward to getting my hands on one of these proper. Do we have an Australian release date?
I'm not sure. Do we know the release date yet?
Nobody's going to tell me. Somebody knows, but nobody's going to tell me yet. Thanks, mate.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.